Hi, I'm Pastor Steve Talmage of Love of Christ Lutheran Church in Mesa, Arizona. And each week, Pastor Nanette Christofferson and I seek to provide a brief introduction to two of the assigned lectionary Bible readings for the upcoming Sunday. In this video, we'll take a look at Mark 13, verses 1 to 8, which is the gospel assigned for the Sunday, November 14th, 2021. We need to look at all of chapter 13, so I encourage you to read from verse 1 through verse 37 to get a feel of the context. In this chapter, Jesus reveals events that will happen in the future. These events are experienced by Mark's readers and also by other Christians throughout history. Jesus warns against thinking either that the end is coming very soon or at some time distant. So again, context, even before chapter 13, Jesus is now in Jerusalem. We are moving towards the Holy Week that we know, Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, Easter, the crucifixion, death and crucifixion of Jesus, and the resurrection of Jesus. So here in the temple, he is continuing to teach his disciples, and in this case, we're talking about when it seems like the end of the world's coming. What do we do? How do we respond? What's the call of discipleship? And so Jesus warns against thinking it's right now or tomorrow, or it's way off in the future and you don't even have to think about it. Bible scholars have often called Mark 13 the little apocalypse, as within this chapter, Jesus is speaking about or revealing what is to come in the last days or end of times. But remember, this is very clear in the Bible. No one knows the when, only God. Apocalypse is a disclosure or revelation of great knowledge. In religious concepts, an apocalypse usually discloses something very important that was hidden or provides a vision of heavenly secrets that can make sense of earthly realities. I've given you a painting by Leonardo da Vinci in the PowerPoint, and scholars have indicated that there are background scenes that you don't see in the finished product that helped influence the outcome of the finished product. 13:1-2. As he, Jesus, came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what large stones and what large buildings." Remember, these limestone blocks surrounding the temple. They could have been 8 to 20 feet in size, 8 by 20 feet, just thicker than thick, heavier than heavy, just insurmountable when you think about how huge these were. The temple area is believed, I think, to have contained up to maybe 8 super Walmarts. So here's this disciple looking at this structure saying, "This is just unbelievable." But then Jesus asked him, "Do you see these great buildings? Not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down." I've given you the images of the World Trade Towers before and after 9/11, 2001. They stood as twin monuments to human engineering and architecture, a sign of the strength and vitality of the financial district of the world. And then in an instant, you see what happens. Again, Jesus is going to invite his followers to not put their faith and confidence in human works, engineering, achievements, accomplishments, or even people, because those can crash and burn. Jerusalem and the Second Temple were destroyed by Rome in 70 CE. It is believed that Mark was written sometime in the 60s CE, so Jerusalem had not yet fallen, but persecution of both Jews and Christians were going on by the Romans. There was constant tension between loyalty to the emperor and empire against devotion to Yahweh for the Jews and Jesus for the Christians. Mark 13:3-4. When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew, the two sets of fishermen or the sons of fishermen, the earliest of the disciples in Jesus's invitation to follow him, they ask him privately. So the other disciples aren't around. Tell us, when will this be? And what will be the sign that all these things are about to be accomplished? So imagine sitting there on the Mount of Olives, and some of you watching this, listening to this, have been to Jerusalem, have been to the Mount of Olives, and you look over the Kidron Valley, you see the walls of the city, and you see now the Dome of the Rock mosque, because the temple was destroyed under the Romans. But you look across and you see the history and the magnificence and God's provision through good and bad times. And now they're asking, when is the temple going to come down? Because for them, that really is the end time, the last days. All of us have to admit we have a fixation on knowing when. Both the Old and New Testament reference or foreshadow events to come. Many of us are tempted to do what we can to get the inside scoop to either benefit from the information or be able to escape the calamity to come. This is human nature. This is human nature. So the question is, how do we resist wanting to be in the know and simply trust that whatever is coming, we don't have to be afraid because God is with us. Verses 5-6. Then Jesus began to say to them, beware that no one leads you astray. Many will come in my name and say, I am he, and they will lead many astray. Jesus deflects from the request for a definitive time of the events. That is not what his followers, what you or I need to fixate on, is the when. Knowing that there will be a time in the future, we simply need to be aware of the false teaching and the false teachers that are roaming about trying to lead people astray, saying that they know, saying that they have the inside scoop. And even in our lifetime or my lifetime, there have been plenty of people who have given you the exact date and year when the end of the world's going to come. So Jesus says, beware. Beware of these, saying that they know what God knows. 7-8. When you hear of wars and rumors of war, do not be alarmed. This must take place, but the end is still to come. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places. There will be famines. This is but the beginnings of the birth pangs. Again, the longer you and I live, the more we look at history and we see that nations have risen against nation. In the 20th century, we had 2 world wars. We've seen kingdoms rise against kingdom. All of us remember in elementary school and junior high learning about the explorers and the battles between Spain and England and France. And we all know about famines in the 20th and 21st century. But they're only the beginning of the birth pangs. So I ask, what are the birth pangs today that cause us to be aware of the temporary nature of the things of this earth and the power structures that we think that we have control over? I have a sampling of just illustrations here. You know, the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol. That wasn't an outside nation. That was an internal movement of people trying to attack the symbol of democracy. COVID-19 has disrupted the globe and disrupted the nation and disrupted our personal lives. One of a growing concern among economists, politicians, maybe politicians, but theologians, is the increasing gap of global wealth between the poorest of the poor. And again, we need to be students of history, and we see when you have more and more people suffering from receiving the bounty of God's goodness, it tends to end in violence and revolution. You can think of our own American history and taxation without representation. And then the climate clock. Again, we may be all over the map when it comes to climate change, but the realities of what we're seeing around the globe, and all you got to do is drive over Lake Mead on your way to Las Vegas, and it should cause some concern about what happens when we have to turn the water off. I close out with a word in the book of Romans from the Apostle Paul. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly while we wait for adoption, the redemption of our bodies. For in hope we are saved. Now hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. Whenever I preach on the end times or the little apocalypse or the second coming of Jesus, I don't want us to be terrified by it. I don't spend a lot of time and energy worrying about, is this the day that I'm going to die, or is this the day that Jesus is going to come? I try to be grateful. Grateful for the moment I have, the relationships I have, the privileges I have, the experiences I get to enjoy, the love I'm able to share. And I want to believe in a future for my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And so I'm called to live with a hope that God is bigger than all the destruction or damage that human beings might do to each other or this planet. But I also am called to be mindful that we have a responsibility to steward and manage the life that we've been given and the environment that we've been given, the relationships that we've been given. So in a way, to do that in a way that we're not constantly fighting and working to destroy one another, whether it be with words or actions. God bless you as you listen to the words of Jesus and put your trust and confidence in Him.